Hey everyone, I'm back in town after a little work vacation at my mom's place. I've been doing a lot of work over there, remodeling my mother's basement, and I haven't been recording any of that because it's not my stuff. I don't really feel like it's appropriate for me to be showing things that aren't mine. Just doing a quick update this week. I haven't had a lot of time to record any new stuff, and I'm kind of in between projects at the moment. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to fill you in on the update on the van. The last place I left you off here was we had basically put everything back together and it was ready to go to the alignment shop. I was going to take it for a drive, test everything out, make sure everything was good. So the good news is all the suspension, everything looks great. The alignment was done. That's all settled and we're good to go on that. However, one of the main reasons I wanted to do all of this suspension work was mainly for the steering. If you remember back to those videos, I wanted to change the suspension or get all the bushings and everything because when you drive down the road, the steering is really loose. Well, that's still the case. I read into it a little more, but I thought I would just kind of tackle the stuff that was problematic to begin with. So we already knew the bushings were bad, we knew the ball joints were loose, all of that stuff needed to be replaced anyway. So I'm glad I did that. I feel much more confident about this truck and it's going down the road. Now, as far as the steering goes, I can kind of show you what we're looking at here. I can move this steering wheel plus and minus probably 5-10 degrees before I even get any motion in the wheels. Now, you can see how much I'm moving it here. I'm just going to keep doing this, and then I'm going to show you the tire. It's not moving. Now, if I go a little farther, you can see it start to move a little bit. But this is what I'm dealing with here, is just this slop in the steering wheel. And it's really annoying. It's way too much. It may not look like that much, but when you're driving down the road, that feels like a lot before anything happens. There's two places I can check here. One is up here. So right there, I can see that it's turning the steering column. So I don't think there's any linkage problem from here down to where the steering gear is. I know this steering gear has a bolt that you can tighten the pinion on there and it'll kind of grab in a little tighter. So before I go for a new steering gear, I'm going to try and tighten that bolt. I'm not going to do that today, but that is a thing that has to happen on this. If tightening that bolt doesn't work and I'm still sloppy, maybe I need a new steering gear. I'm not sure. I'll cross that bridge when we get there. If that doesn't completely solve the problem, I'll get a steering damper to put on the front. If that doesn't work, well, then I'm just going to have to live with it. Okay, that's where we're at. Let's go inside. I want to take a quick note on the room in there, and then we'll come back. We're back in this room because I just came home, wanted to check on the floor, make sure everything was still set the way I left it. Everything still looks really good. The floor hasn't dropped away or anything like that. Everything looks good. The floor is stable. I'm happy with that. When I was editing the last video and I was talking about these numbers, I realized I was really overthinking it. So you're going to kind of have to ignore some of that. I don't know why I made it more complicated than it needed to be. I was talking about these numbers and how, you know, the ceiling went up and the floor came up and the gap was different and you had to take this number away from that. Okay, that's kind of just not really what happened. I lifted the floor and then I continued to lift the floor and it lifted the ceiling a little bit. So all of the numbers are correct in terms of the measurement, but they're just all absolute measurements. So it doesn't really matter where the differences are and how subtracting all that stuff. I'm sure some of you probably realize that by now. Anyway, I'm really happy with the way that we straightened out the walls, we straightened out the floor. There's going to be a little bit more lift, as I mentioned before, but the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I undo the bolts on the sill plate underneath. When I get to the exterior, I'm going to underpin the foundation wall. Originally, I had thought maybe I would jack up the actual foundation wall and then underpin it, but I think that's too complicated and it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do is it's just going to get underpinned. I'm going to unbolt the sill plate from the foundation wall, and then I'll just shim underneath the foundation wall and I'll fill it in with some grout at the end. So whatever the foundation wall is, wherever it is right now, that's where it's going to stay. I'm just going to underpin it and then mortar the top of it. So that's it. That's really all I wanted to say in here. All the rest of the information in that video is still there and relevant, and I don't want to keep rehashing that. All right, we're all caught up. What do we do now? I'm going to actually do something a little different for a while. I'm going to talk about the van and the stuff that I did prior to the work that you just saw on the undercarriage. I'm going to talk about what I did to refurbish the interior, the engine work I did, all of that stuff. We're going to go back in time. This was a couple years ago, but I have all this footage of me repairing the van inside and everything. Hopefully that's useful to somebody, and I think it's interesting. I also have a bunch of footage of me building this shed, which I think is also very interesting. I have people talking about this shed, and we'll watch that. I've also got a few other projects that I'm going to do, sort of a throwback Thursday sort of deal. I'm not really sure in terms of projects moving forward what I'm going to be able to do. There is some really good news happening right now that I will share later when I have more news. That's going to be pretty exciting, and hopefully I will be able to share that with you very soon. Anyway, I know this is a little kind of a boring video, but tomorrow I will have a video that I'm going to start putting out on Thursday. We're just going to do the throwback Thursday stuff. So it's going to be the van, it's going to be the shed. I've got my wine cooler inside the garage. There's a few other things. The only new project I might start working on are the benches that are inside the garage here that I want to put in. So when I start doing that, of course, I'll bring you along for the ride. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Throwback Thursday van repair stuff, and we'll see you there.